Greetings fellow members of the Esoteric Order of Gamers. I'm going to look today at something new from Games Workshop. It's called Battle in Balin's Tomb, and it's a little battle game or adventure game based on the iconic scene from the Fellowship of the Ring movie, where of course they fight the goblins and the cave troll in Balin's tomb in Moria. This has come out just in time for Christmas. It looks like a lot of fun. It's a pretty straightforward introductory battle game. But it looks pretty cool, so let's check out and see what you get inside. And by the way, Games Workshop sent me a copy of this free, so I could show it to you. First up, let's have a look at what you get in the box. Now, please keep in mind, I've already opened this and I've made up the miniatures and done other things, so this is not exactly what you see when you open the box. But it's a nice compact little box, nice square one, it's not too deep. And this is what you get. You get a bunch of cards. Again, I put these into Ziploc bags and stuff, so there's some goblin cards, and these are all about deploying the goblins and the troll and how you place them. Then you've got character cards, so these describe the different characters of the Fellowship and the goblins and everything as well. You've got a move value, an attack value, a defend value, and a number of wounds. And of course there's a special abilities, and there's a one ring ability as well when you roll the ring thing on the dice. Of course the bad guys don't get that. The attack and defend is just a number of coloured dice, so very, very simple system. Here are the dice. You've got 3 blue ones for the Fellowship, and you've got 2 red and a grey one for the goblins and the troll. And as you can see, they've got a shield and a sword symbol on them, and also a ring symbol. And then the goblin one have a shield and a sword and an eye symbol, Eye of Sauron. There's some simple wound markers like that. Big square rule book. And the rules are very, very simple. It's a straightforward battle game. With this kind of game, you initially read the rules and you think, that's so basic. You know, you're just rolling basically attack and defense shields, cancelling out attack rolls, and a few special abilities on the cards, and that's about it. However, when it comes to these games, it's the play experience that matters. So even though the rules might be very simple, if the special abilities synergize nicely and interesting things happen, it can be a really, really fun little game. So I'm looking forward to playing it and finding out if it works. It probably will. It's not going to be deep strategy by any means, but it'll be a fun little battle game. I will let you know, of course, as soon as I've played some games. But as you can see, the rules are very straightforward and pretty short. There's very simple line of sight, but apart from that, it's just roll dice to attack and hit, and you have your special abilities. The thing they've added at the back are some challenges for the Fellowship and the goblins to spice up the gameplay as well. So you can actually try and beat one of these challenges to make things a little bit harder. For example, win the game with all 9 members of the Fellowship alive and all that kind of stuff. The board is very nice. Got a nice big board. There it is, nice and big. Lovely, covered with squares. You've got orthogonal and diagonal movement on this, and it starts, as you can see, with the classic setup. Gimli is standing on the tomb, the rest of them are standing to the side, except for Boromir, Legolas and Aragorn are up the front, and then goblins and the troll come in through the doorway. They've got a cave troll. Such a good line. So, nice board, all very good quality. And then, of course, the miniatures, and these came on a few sprues. I've already made them up. Let's have a closer look at these. So here's the Fellowship, and these are very easy to put together. In fact, most of them are one-piece models, except you attach an arm onto Gandalf, one onto Aragorn, and I think there was one on Boromir as well. So just a single arm piece. Really could have been push fit. You really didn't even have to glue them, but of course I've glued them. The bits of green stuff on the base here is me just plugging the little holes in the base. You know how the bases tend to have a little well in the centre, so I've just smoothed that over. I've also magnetised them. I just immediately magnetise all my figures because usually I store things on steel sheets that I put inside my games or in my storage system. So I always put a magnet on there just so they will work with the storage system that I decide on in the end. Lovely turn marker, which is a ring itself. It's not going to fit on my finger anytime soon, but let me see, maybe the little finger. Oh, gee. Oh, that was dangerous. They really shouldn't put that in every set. That's kind of dangerous. Let's have a closer look. As you can see, they're pretty straightforward figures. I really wouldn't compare these to the usual run of Games Workshop figures. But remember, this is a beginner's game, an introductory game. They're not going to put very complex sculpts. They're the same scale as the figures that come with the Middle-earth strategy battle game, so I assume you can use them in that game. Unfortunately, I don't have any figures from that game to compare it to. I never actually got into the Middle-earth strategy battle game. So while I know these are the same scale, I'm not sure if these are simpler sculpts. They look a little bit simpler from the ones I've seen online. You can see something like Gimli here. Where is he? Yeah, that's a pretty basic pose, isn't it? A little bit toy-like, really, just holding his arms out like that. But again, this is an introductory game, and the focus isn't on amazing modelling figures, it's just on play pieces. Aragorn's quite nice, he's got a nice dynamic pose there. But again, you can see things like where they've filled in a bit of negative space there with the bow. Not a huge amount of detail, but they're fine. Then you've got 12 goblins. They're in 3 different types. There's a goblin with spear, a goblin with shield, and a goblin with bow. So they'd have their own special abilities. And again, nice, simple little figures. Pretty straightforward, but certainly capturing the flavour of the goblins from the movies. And then your big bad is, of course, the famous cave troll. I've given him the mace that he uses during most of the fight, but you can also alternatively use this spear if you wish. I could have magnetised that, but I really didn't bother. This figure's fine. It's slightly more complicated to put together. You put the back on the front piece. Just keep in mind when you're doing that, you put the arm in first. So put in the arm and then put on the back piece. A nice enough figure though. It'll certainly dominate the board when it comes on and look and feel very threatening. Here's the initial setup for the game. You can see they're all set up on the board there in their classic positions. The gameplay is very straightforward, as I mentioned. The Goblin player goes first, followed by the Fellowship player. You basically can move or attack or move. If you're in a space adjacent to an enemy and want to move away, they get a free strike at you, or a sudden strike it's called. They can roll dice to attack. When you attack, you roll a certain number of attack dice, depending on the stats on your character card. And the defender rolls a certain number of defense dice. Swords hit, shields block. Both sides have a special icon on their dice. If you roll that icon, you can substitute any other result instead of that icon. Or in the case of the Fellowship player, you can use it to activate a special ability, which is detailed on their card, which adds distinctiveness to the different characters in the game. Also, things get tougher for the Fellowship as the game goes on. As it progresses, the goblins are drawing cards from the goblin deck and getting reinforcements. And of course, eventually, this big bruiser will show up. And really, that's pretty much about it for rules. The Fellowship player wins at the end of the 12th turn if there are 3 or more members of the Fellowship left. And they've got to include Frodo, of course. However, you can still end the game in a draw if Frodo is defeated and you have 3 or more members left. The Goblin player wins if at the end of the 12th turn there are less than 3 members of the Fellowship left. Now, of course, experienced gamers are going to say, oh, that sounds a little bit too simple for me, but I think this kind of thing is fun. At the end of an evening's game, if you feel like a bit of a bash, you can get a game like this out and how long does it take? 30 to 45 minutes, and you can have a laugh. I haven't played it yet, of course, so I'm not sure how the special abilities work together and how fun it really is in the wash, but I will let you know as soon as I've had some games and tell you what I think of it. In the meantime, I think it's a great way to introduce people to this kind of gaming. You've got some nice miniatures, they're easy to put together, you don't even have to paint them. You could keep them as red and blue colours if you wanted to. And of course, if you're really excited by it, you might go on to have a look at the Middle-earth strategy battle game and get into tabletop miniatures gaming. The other good thing about this, of course, is that people immediately can relate to the scene in the film where they're fighting in Balin's tomb and the cave troll comes in and the whole bit. So they already have that visual link in their head when they're playing the game, and it brings the whole thing alive for them. Anyway, as I said, I'll be telling you more about Battle in Balin's Tomb after I've had a chance to play it. For now, that's just a look at the components and what you get in the box and my initial impressions. I'll see you next time. Thanks very much for watching. The Esoteric Order of Gamers, orderofgamers.com. Check out the website. I will, of course, get a rule summary for... Actually, will I get a rule summary for this? No, I don't think I should, really. I mean, it's really simple. You won't need a rule summary. That's just me being an obsessive completist. That's it for now. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. Bye for now.